Welcome back to episode 4 of SokoChain, the show where we dive into local crypto and blockchain stories straight from out of Kenya and the wider African ecosystem. I'm your host, Faith, and today we're going to have a special guest called Bratipah Kioko, who's a blockchain developer relations specialist, a 5-time hackathon winner, and Kenya's Lisk ambassador. Bratipah's journey is all about bridging tech, community, and purpose. And she's been at the forefront of Web3 in Kenya. In our conversation, we're going to explore how she broke into the space, the challenges that she's faced along the way, and the lessons she's learned and where she's going next. So, without further ado, let's welcome Bratipah. Hi, Bratipah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too.
Thank you for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you and to get to know your story. I've been seeing you within the blockchain ecosystem, you doing your thing. I know you as a developer. I've seen you in a couple of hackathons, a couple of events as well. So it would be nice to just get to know who you are, how your journey has been into the space. And I'm sure also our audience will be glad to know who Kioko is. So if you can just tell us, how did you start within the blockchain space? How has your journey been? Tell us your story.
Perfect. So, as you've heard, my name is Bratipah. I go by the term of a blockchain advocate because most of the times I find a lot of titles that are there. But essentially, in my skills as a developer, in also pushing the community engagement in Kenya and even East Africa, I found the term blockchain advocate fits best with me. So I started my journey in blockchain at the year 2022. At that time, I was in university. I think I was on second year at Kenyatta
Yeah.
University. I did a bachelor's in public policy and administration. So I didn't do a lot of development before then, although I had done some little bit of tinkering with the Web2 side on both mobile and web development.
Yeah.
At that time, while in university, I felt most of the technology wasn't advanced. I was always meeting something that I thought was past with time, and I had hunger to find what happens in the world. I mean, most people can relate. You always see like sci-fi movies, and you're like, who actually builds this stuff? And at the end of the day, who in Kenya like thinks the Avengers, or who in the hell in Kenya who thinks like Spider-Man, who
Yeah.
even things about even creating something that's ahead of their time, and where do you go to? And also at the time, I was also, as a personal venture, I was trying to find a way on how I can be able to bring policy to
Mhm.
impact into Kenyan ecosystem, with also including technology to it. So we were in GDSC one day. That's Google Developer Student Clubs in Kenyatta University,
Yeah.
and said, "Have anybody ever heard about blockchain?" I was like, "What is that?" I mean, I
Mm.
thought I knew every technology from blockchain, IoT sensors, AI, and even a little bit of quantum technology, but it was like blockchain, and I was like, "Okay, sure." So what they did is they told us there will be fun, there will be free food because you are a university student.
Yeah.
Definitely doesn't come easy, and also the financial status is not also good. So
Yeah.
went. It was a Polygon event done by also Harmony,
Mm.
and lucky enough, they also paid for transport. And while we went to that event and heard about what was blockchain, how it's
Mm.
changing the financial economy, how it's supposed to help people have ownership. And at the same time, I was thinking, who even thinks about this stuff? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in university, you're just thinking, I'm going to get that degree, I'm going to get a job. And if I
Mm.
get a job, then after that, that's where I can now start maybe helping people realize how technology can happen. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if you tell your mother that you're doing technology, she will tell you, hiyo kitu hailipi, that doesn't pay. I mean,
Yeah.
fine, serious. I don't relate to that. So at the end of the day, I found an intersection between policy and technology,
Mm-hmm.
because with policy also, people didn't know what policy was. I mean, you've seen how campaigns are made in Africa. It's all about being given handouts, and you
Yeah.
never understand what really is in between the policies and how can you be able to impact. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, at least I found my footing in policy and technology, so why not go to the next step?
Yeah.
After that, I was introduced to Web3 clubs, which is a workspace or a facility whereby people go to learn about Web3 technology now into the development space. Because at that time, nobody told you you can do blockchain like without being a developer. So the only path that I could see to understand blockchain better was being a developer. That's why I joined Web3 clubs.
Yeah.
That's where we did a Rust cohort there using near technology. And we did it for 3 months or 6 months. Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry if I'm mistaken, but it was 3 to 6 months. After that, we definitely did a project with Nia Technology. And also, miraculously, we didn't have ladies in that also cohort. And if they were, maybe I didn't see them or they weren't quite that active, but they were almost no ladies. It reached a point whereby even we did a hackathon with Nia, and like I was the only lady on that hackathon. So also being a
Yeah.
lady and also being new into the space, I had to step up, I had to show my value, and I also had to know how you can also help other people coming in into the ecosystem. And that's where the advocacy and mentorship even came up from. Moving forward, using Web3 clubs. It's a very good workspace facility.
Yeah.
We went on to discover other languages like Solidity. We also went to discover other chains like Ethereum. And we also now, fast forward, they've also helped me to even discover other new technologies within the blockchain industry like privacy and zero knowledge proofs, and
Mm.
also understanding on also how you can move from being a builder to also a founder, and also how to leverage your skills in that particular space. Yes, so that's
Mm.
my journey. And now the other journey is now into employment, and I was able to now leverage the skills of how I learned. But that's how I got into blockchain.
Quite interesting to hear your journey. And it's also very good to hear that you started your blockchain journey while still in campus. Because just to touch on the campus activations that usually happen with a lot of blockchain protocols as well as exchanges or generally blockchain projects, you find they usually tap into universities because of the ready market as well as trying to educate the upcoming generation that is going to get into the job market, and also people who have the power to push the technology in terms of innovation, educating the people around them, and also uh, just pushing the technology into the job market that they're going to go into. And it's so nice to see that a product of that campus initiative, you're here now doing your own thing and also pushing for blockchain adoption and blockchain advocacy. And I like the way that you've touched on getting into the space and finding out that the population or the ratio of men to women who are getting into the space is very minimal or even non-existent, to be honest, because you find sometimes, but now it's improving. At least we're seeing more women coming into blockchain and embracing it, and even becoming like tapping into different areas that are within the ecosystem. And if you can just tell us now, from now, your journey from when you started and choosing to be choosing to become a blockchain developer to push for advocacy. How has that been as a blockchain developer, and combining now the whole aspect of policy and advocacy? How has that been?
So I'll give you a backstory on this. Well, at the same time, I was also joining the blockchain boot camps and also trying to go to this event. It was
Yeah.
very, because one of the things, mind you, is I know university students relate.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to put in the work while they are in university. It's all about going to the lectures, and then even if you're going at the lectures, then you have some fun. You also have a lot of time, but
Yeah.
basically like nobody wants to use that time for some reason. I don't know why. So
Yeah.
having that, also your peer groups, most of them they see that they have time, and maybe they don't want to put in the work. It can also weigh you down as a university student.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for me, I think having that goal of I need to make an impact, I need to see what's happening, and also keeping that curiosity going, like
Mm.
really, really pushed me to keep on going. Another thing is there weren't resources. I mean, in 2022, I think, I don't know if that time Binance had entered the market,
Yeah.
but there wasn't any conversations like tokens or even stable coins, or even you finding a startup that has actually built even in the blockchain ecosystem at that time.
Mm.
Also, even in terms of development, you didn't like find boot camps a lot of. Actually, Web3 clubs was like the first Web3 boot camp in Kenya, and even
Mm.
first in East Africa at that time. So you couldn't go like to a boot camp in Moringa and say, I need blockchain technology. They'd be like, maybe soon. Or maybe you couldn't go to any other like GDAC and bring a conversation on blockchain, because at that time it was all about who knows React, who knows Angular, who knows all of these database frameworks. And
Yeah.
also the path to employment was quite hard, because all you saw was if you're going to become a senior engineer, you have to, gather up like 3 to 5 years experience. And
Mm.
if you are that good, maybe you can get a senior development, but experience was always a very key thing on that particular aspect.
Yeah.
So having all of those problems made me always, ask myself a question at the back of my mind, like, how is it going to be to another person who
Mm.
might not have that kind of curiosity, who might not be able to, have all the time to go through every YouTube channel or even go to like 3 events on a weekend and be able to just understand blockchain. Another thing was, when you were even going to the events, there was a lot of new words. Like you could go to an event and you hear consensus mechanism, you could
Mm.
hear codes, you could hear degen, you could hear DeFi, and you're like, oh my god, I think I'm living in another world in Kenya. And there's another world like out here whereby people are just doing a lot of things that I don't know about. And
Yeah.
you also see like there are people who are catching up, there are people who know a lot. Some are your peers, some are like not your peers, but there are people, and you want to reach there, but the buzzwords are kind of like, keeping the morale down.
Yeah.
So at that aspect, that's when I chose the path of while also learning more on blockchain development to also help people understand the blockchain technology. My goal has always been I'd want a person to understand blockchain technology without them even understanding any of those buzzwords or big words. So, as I always say, if you can explain blockchain technology to your grandmother or your mother or your sister, who even is not in technology, then
Yeah.
you have over there, and that's where blockchain advocacy came. So we started just doing it personally.
Mm.
Actually at that time I never knew like people take like roles in blockchain advocacy, because
Yeah.
prior to I was in GDSC, and all we did was maybe mentor people, or you volunteer to a particular organization like DevFest, and there then you can know how to either speak on the event, mentor
Yeah.
people, or else help people build on those particular technologies. Coming in
Mm.
into blockchain, way different. Nobody, there's no structure. You literally
Yeah.
are the one building that structure. If there's a mentorship, you're the one who's initiating that mentorship. If
Yeah.
you're going to a university and teaching students, you're the one who's, putting that into work. You're the one who's holding up the event. You're the one who's managing the resources, and it might take time, but at that
Yeah.
time I was just like, if I touch one person's mindset to shift, then
Yeah.
at the end of the day it will trickle down as it moves. And I think at that time I just went to like my developer friends and I was like, you guys, have you heard of blockchain? And they were like, what? That's scam. Come on.
Yeah.
That's You want Bitcoin? I don't have money for Bitcoin. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
look at me. I don't even have 100,000 in my pocket. What do you mean I get a Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And at that time, then I started like having conversation, even lunchtime. I think I remember even there was a time I was in a company that was called Afia Record and I was a mobile developer there. And
Mm.
during lunchtime, like I'll tell people, you've used M-Pesa. How many do you know like how many transaction percentages that M-Pesa does on your particular transaction saved in day? And they're like, yeah, they're there,
Mm.
but what do we have? What else do we have? That's what we have. That's the only technology that's working. That's the only app that's working. And okay, what do I do about that? That's not my problem.
Yeah.
And you can actually be able to reduce the particular transaction costs, and that will also help you like save even more on your particular savings plan. And it was hard, let me tell you. It was hard
Mm.
because trying to change someone's behavior, it's hard. Now try to change that mindset, it becomes harder. Now try to explain why they need to change that particular mindset. Nobody has time for that, to be honest. And if they do, you really have to put in the work for them to listen to you. um so
100%.
after, yeah, after that, I think it reached a point whereby at first I was like, I'll put one foot onto Web 2 and then the other foot onto Web 3, and then I'll see how it works at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But through the advocacy, it helped me reach a point where I was like, no, I'm going full on Web 3. And at
Mm.
that time, I think at that company, uh, we, I just went one day and told the HR, hey, I think I'm going to go to a blockchain event that was done by Daniel Labs. The Daniel Labs is like a partner company to Afia Record.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, sure. Let me introduce you to somebody who's a smart contract engineer. Try to talk to him, try to understand how you can leverage your career on there. And then moving forward, I went completely off off the road. So I
Yeah.
went from Afia Record now to interacting with people who are in the spaces. And that's where I realized there are roles like being an ambassador. There's a role like being a DevRel. There's
Mm.
a role like being a community manager, even on blockchain technology. There's
Yeah.
a role even being a yapper, like literally yapping.
Yapping about blockchain and crypto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just saying Twitter, making noise and telling people, hey, this is what you can do in blockchain. There's this
Yeah.
blockchain that this is how you can benefit from it. If
Yeah.
you're not in development, that's okay. There's this is what you can do. And at that time that I met a friend
Mm.
while I was also developing. So at
Yeah.
that time, deep into Web 3, I'm doing smart contracts, I'm deploying, and I started working with startups also to help them also deploy their particular smart contracts. And at that time, I met a friend from
Mm.
Nigeria. I'll tag him
Yeah.
because he's very essential in my journey. He's called Mujiz. And
Yeah.
Mujiz was like, okay, I see you understand even more than just development in this space. And I think it could be good for you to join a chain and also help other people also know about this chain and also help other people even understand blockchain in such a way that you've understood. And that's how I got into Lisk ambassadorship.
Yeah.
And from there, that's what I've been doing. Fast forward through the Lisk ambassadorship, I also got into Women in Blockchain East Africa president to be able to advance women into Web 3. And fast forward to that, I also got into Eigen Tribe, which is it's a tribe or it's a community that pushes the analogy of Eigen layer. Yeah, so that's how I got into advocacy.
That's quite interesting and an impressive journey. All in all, just seeing your journey from uh, the way you started in campus to now getting into employment in Web 2 and just pushing the curiosity and wanting to learn. And what I usually say is that when you get into blockchain and crypto, oh my God, you need to be ready to learn and have an understanding of the words. Because just a little backstory similar to yours, when I also joined, I joined blockchain ecosystem as a detour. I was going for a meeting to meet someone in a conference. So when we met, I was just like very curious about what this thing is all about, because you could hear like very serious words, consensus mechanism, DeFi, like just a lot of on ramp, off ramp, just a lot of jargon that I'm not used to in my line of work at the time, or even in the like I had not heard of these words. And as you said, you could see your peers or just people, and you wonder, kwani watu wako na knowledge na kaje, like they have an understanding, yeah, all these things. And to me it just sounds like something yenye imefall from heaven, and it's just very new to me, and it really sparked an interest. And that's why I was just like, okay, I'm gonna dive into this. I really need to understand what all this is like. So I dove into the space, reading, researching, just have a notebook, have at that time, okay, AI was a thing, but it wasn't the way it is right now. So research has been made easy because you can just prompt your AI and you have a conversation, you prompt it again based on the responses you're getting. But then at that time, it was you just Google, you get links, you read, you watch a lot of YouTube videos, and that is what led to the birth of SokoChain. Just wanting people to, when they are getting into understanding about, or even wanting to research about blockchain and crypto, at least they can be able to get relatable content from a relatable platform in terms of the language, the faces, the like accessibility, or even just knowing you can have access to these people in terms of their social media, you can have conversations, you can meet them at events. And that's where SokoChain came about. But it's interesting to see that most people have a similar experience on how they got into the space. So let's talk about Lisk. So you're developer relations ambassador for Lisk.
Yes.
What does that mean? And before you tell us what that means, tell us what is Lisk. Just briefly, what Lisk does, what it is, and what you're doing in terms of developer relations.
Okay. So Lisk is a chain, is a protocol,
Yeah.
but it's a chain that's built on top of Optimism. So I'm going just to do this very simple so that even a person who's just heard Lisk would maybe want to even get to know it better.
Yeah.
So you see the way you people hear about Bitcoin, or some people nowadays they know about USDT, or
Yeah.
some people hear about ETH or Ethereum, and they're like, what are these? So within the blockchain industry, there are different networks. So
Yeah.
and those different networks, each and every network has their own purpose. So the biggest ones are Bitcoin, and then there is Ethereum. Bitcoin is mostly financial based, like you have to find a way on how you move money within the Bitcoin ecosystem. Ethereum, on the other side, is more of community based,
Mm-hmm.
and also like it was one of those chains that brought simplicity actually into blockchain, and also it brought about people being able to engage so much into that particular chain. So
Yeah.
a backstory is when Ethereum started, there was high transaction fees. Like you will spend a lot of money for you to send money from person A to person B. Now, keep in mind, transaction fees in the blockchain industry, it's called gas fees. So when you hear somebody say gas fees, don't freak out. It just means transaction fees, or
Transaction.
even, yeah. So with that backstory is definitely when you're growing a particular network, even Safaricom, like for today, they started with a certain amount of transactions, and as they move forward, the transactions became huge. And then with that, you need to also improve your particular architecture, and you also have to ensure that there's no downtime. Same as
Yeah.
Ethereum, It started small, and then a lot of people entered into or transacting through that particular chain, and that means with high transaction fees, it becomes very expensive for a lot of people, which that wasn't their goal, because at the end of the day, they want a lot of people to be able to have that ownership, and also to be able to transact with wherever that you are. Um, Moving forward, also high transaction fees, definitely the architecture has to change,
Yeah.
and means that the storage should be very private and also very efficient. With that particular problem, that's where you find the conversation of things called layer one and layer two. So for now, if you have a particular product that is going to have high transaction, what happens is you hear people doing upgrades, or you hear people are bringing in other people. Like for example, if it's security, you bring up a security company. If it's financial inclusion, you also bring somebody who's going to provide for you with liquidity. In Ethereum, mind you, there's layer one and layer two. So Ethereum, it's layer one, and then there's now layer two. Layer two are meant now to help Ethereum into first reduce the transaction fees, and also help that the particular transactions that are happening in Ethereum, not all of them happen within that particular layer, just to reduce either the downtime and also to increase what's it called, the transaction time from person A to person B. Now
Yeah.
that's where layer two came in, and then layer two now in the Lisk aspect is there's a chain that's called Optimism. Now, Optimism is they have an architecture within it that's called SuperChain. Now, SuperChain is the architecture that then holds most of the L2s.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that L2s, they don't, not all of them are into Optimism. There's L2s like Stacknet, which they are not on Optimism, but they still share the bit of the transaction become way less, and they also help the Ethereum not to have like all transaction happening on the layer one, which is the core particular chain. Now let's go back to Optimism, whereby now we have Superchain. Superchain, it's just an architecture within the Optimism that has layer twos. It has small chains which are inside super chain. Now, those chains are called side chains. They're called side chains because they're just side to side. They're side by side with each other. They share the same architecture. They also like share the same transaction fees almost. So within those side chains, there's Lisk, there's Base, there's another chain called Base, there's
Yeah.
Selo, there's Mantle, there's also WorldCoin, very prominent in Kenya.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so when they share in between that particular architecture, it means that first, if you build into any of these chains, you are able to tap in into all the markets that are happening within that particular side chain. So let's say if you built onto Lisk, you are able to access market from Base and also WorldCoin. If you also are transacting, let's say you have your own coin, let's call it a token, and you're trying to also transact it within Base, it means there's also that interoperability between those particular chains. So it becomes easier for you to move tokens even within that particular ecosystem. Now, you'll ask me, why am I talking about Lisk? There's Base, there's Celo, there's
Yeah.
Mantle, and there's Bitcoin. So the vision of Lisk is, or their mission is that they're concentrated only on Africa and
Yeah.
the Latam is Latin America. And why are they doing this? Because, as I've told you before, blockchain wasn't started, or the buzz of blockchain didn't start in Africa. Africa, um, even right now, maybe they're always trying to do catch up or
Yeah.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the same aspect is, even if there are so many startups that are building on blockchain in Africa and also in Latam,
Yeah.
it's for the same reason they're still facing the problem of the Silicon Valley problem, whereby if you are trying to raise funds, you have to do it the American way,
Yeah.
if or the Silicon Valley way. If you're also trying to get into a market, you have to go through the Silicon Valley way, which essentially African market and the Latin market is not the same as the Silicon Valley market. Here in Africa, trying to build infrastructures. You'll find like in Africa, there's no infrastructure on the healthcare system. There's no infrastructure on agriculture system. But when you go to the Silicon Valley market, is you find that they already have the structure. The structure is working perfectly, and what they're trying to do is innovate on top of that
Mm.
infrastructure. Having that Africa has a very good talent, very specific talent, and also building very huge problems that might not seem huge to another person in another type of market is for the
Yeah.
same reason also Lisk focused their particular goals into Africa and also Latin America. So they do this by
Mm.
offering mentorship, support, and
Mm.
also education to people in both those markets to be able to understand how can they create an impact and how can they make best of themselves while in that particular chain. So how does that tie to my work?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, within an organization, you'd want someone to be on the ground. You'd want someone to guide you. So if you're
Yeah.
in Kenya right now, you'd want someone to tell you what are the opportunities that are there on Lisk.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you start going to the HQ and every other thing is, you might feel like they don't understand how Kibera works. They
Mm.
don't understand how Kidurai works. And for the same reason, they might not understand why are you solving the problem of, let's say, clothes recycling in Gikomba market.
Yeah.
Uh, how big can is that problem, and how much of an impact does that problem even make in the particular Kenyan population? So for the
Mm-hmm.
same reason, also for the builders, they also might not understand even how to start on that particular venture,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my work. My work is to make a bridge of people learning the particular technology. So if you want to
Mm-hmm.
become a developer within the space, I help you understand the particular way or the path on how you can be able to learn it very perfectly and
Yeah.
at your pace. Or also, if you want to do it fast, well, then I have some resources for you. And
Yeah.
also, if you're also a startup, also trying to help you to understand how can that startup plug in into the blockchain technology, and if you're going through a certain path, how will that affect your particular startup? Also
Mm-hmm.
link you up with the opportunities that are available, which those are, I'll just mention them here because if there's anybody who's interested, this is the time to also
Yeah.
reach out
Please
to me.
do. What are some of the opportunities that are there?
So as a startup, there are two opportunity. Oh, there are a lot of opportunities, but if you are starting out as a builder, we have a bootcamp that we've
Mm-hmm.
always been doing in the Lisk ecosystem. We
Mm-hmm.
have also partnered with existing companies who've also been bridging this education into blockchain and also helping startups coming in into the space. So
Mm-hmm.
we've partnered with Web3 Bridge, which is in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria currently.
Yeah.
And the Web3 Bridge, what happens there is people are taught on how to build smart contracts and also not only build, but also ensure whatever you are building can also get to the market and also have some traction within that particular market. We've
Mm-hmm.
also partnered with Aya Labs, which is an incubation program. And within Aya Labs, mind you, we have a workspace in Kilifi whereby people could go there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's say it's a space whereby you can go there, stay there, build whatever you are building. You just need to fill a form and ensure that you book your space there. There's room for accommodation. There is also with the Kilifi kind of setting at the end of the day, we are looking for people to get out from the Nairobi chaos and from the town chaos to go somewhere whereby you can lock in and
Yeah.
build something in that spatial economic zone. Also within Aya Labs, they offer an incubation program. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have an idea and if
Mm-hmm.
you've built that particular idea, let's say to an MVP,
Yeah.
and require mentorship within the Aya Labs incubation program, is you get mentorship for 3 months, and for
Mm-hmm.
those 3 months, at the end of the day, they are finalists within the incubation program.
Yeah.
And in the finalists, they are able to get $20K grants worth of money to help you to go forward into improving your particular startup or idea. Moving forward within the ILM, they also have an alumni community
Mm-hmm.
whereby they don't just leave you after you've gone through the incubation program and they throw you to the lions of the market. They
Yeah.
also connect you with the alumni community that's there that they've built. They've gone to traction. Some of them have also gone to seed series,
Yeah.
and also help you get investors and also mentor you still while you're also still going to through your startup.
Yeah.
The other opportunity is Civil Labs. So Civil Labs is also an incubation program and
Mm-hmm.
also company. It has been there, been very, very, very essential into the blockchain community.
Yeah.
So what Civil Labs has partnered with Lisk is to also offer an incubation program, which is a 6-month program, whereby you
Mm-hmm.
also get mentorship on different aspects. And at the end of the 6 months program, if you're a finalist, you're able to get $100,000 as a grant.
Mm-hmm.
And it asks what's the difference between Civil Labs and IR Labs. So
Yeah.
Civil Labs for startups who have traction, startups who know what they want, who know the market. So right
Mm-hmm.
now, if you're just getting into startup world, there are things that you don't know, like acquisition. There are
Mm-hmm.
things, terms that you don't know, like ROI, what it means.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's been building for 5 years or 4 years, they've gone through the mud, they know all of these things. They've gone through legal and compliance. So those are
Yeah.
the type of people who go into CV labs. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're just a builder or a developer and one day you tinkered out with a problem, you found a problem and you went to a solution, and you've not been in that particular startup based venture or company way, and you've not been knowing how it works, or even you don't know how the blockchain ecosystem works, you'd rather
Mm-hmm.
go to Aya. But also keep in mind that this has been running for quite a long time. So with Aya, I think right now
I have
they are
a question.
yeah.
So for somebody to get into IRLab, is there like a checklist, or how does one qualify
Mhm.
to be part of IRLabs and to even go to the Kilifi incubation hub and be there within the period that they want to, they're going to be there to build their project and to get guidance. So is there a checklist, what is required from them, or is there even a payment fee that they're going to have to pay? Tell us about that.
Okay, so for Aya, if you want to get into the incubation program, there are always cohorts. So right now
Mm-hmm.
they are into the third or fourth cohort currently,
Mm-hmm.
which they've already taken the people who are going to participate in the incubation program. So
Mm-hmm.
for the same reason, that's why you need to follow Lisk Africa on Twitter so that you can be able to see when they open this particular cohort. Also for the same of
Mm-hmm.
civil, it's also cohort based. So if at all there is a new cohort, actually, they should be having their demo day soon. So go to Twitter and see their demo day of the particular cohort that they've been doing currently on Twitter at civil underscore labs.
Mm-hmm.
And that will also give you a chance to see how competitive it is. Because I think most people, when they go into these incubation programs, they think because now I've said that it's $20K or $100K, it's money for
Yeah,
free. But have in
very
mind that
competitive.
it's very competitive. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't show value, then nobody's going to invest into you.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, like cohort 3 had 12 participants, and only 6 of them made it to be finalists.
Mm,
Out of that, they had over 1,000 applications just to take 12 people. So you
well,
can see how
so
competitive.
people need to be serious and put in the work.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. And mind you, you are not competing with only Kenyans. You're competing with the whole of Africa.
Ah,
So you're
okay. So you
competing with
need to.
with that Nigerian developer who's been pushing since 1980. You're competing with a Ghana. startup person who doesn't have infrastructure, or doesn't even they have a high leverages because in their country they don't have something like M-Pesa. You're
Yeah.
competing with somebody from South Africa, definitely. So the competition is very high. So also with the workspace is not only on in Kenya. There's also
Mm,
another workspace in Ghana. Both are owned by Aya Labs. If you are
mhm,
in South Africa, there's a workspace that you can go to in South Africa.
mm,
They're done by name, but there's also a workspace in South Africa, in Ghana, and in Kenya. And all those are Lisk Africa Telegram community and also a Twitter handle. If you want to go to Kilifi, if you are a Kenyan, is there's
yeah.
a form that you have to fill. You also have to give out a certain amount, um, $50 for you to
Mhm.
secure your position. Because we did this because most of the people always fill the form and
Mm,
they don't even make it to go to the facility. So that means
okay.
there's double booking. There's some person who wants to go to, and then at the same time, the other person doesn't make it. So you
So
just
is the 50, sorry, is the $50 refundable once you get to the location?
yeah. It is refundable. Once you get to the location, you'll be refunded your particular $50. So it's just a placement of funds for to ensure that you go into that particular space as you say you are going. But it's
Perfect.
beautiful, and trust me, I've been there. It's very powerful, and it's
Yeah.
called no bullshit zone for the same reason that you don't go there to joke.
Perfect. Let me ask you, from your experience with community building and interacting with different people who are building and for different projects and also different startups within the ecosystem, how would you say that startups in African can better leverage Web3 and blockchain for social impact and not just speculation or hype, building something for, that is solving the problem that we are experiencing as Africans? And what role would you say developers and community builders usually play in this specific role?
So, one thing you have to understand is people are still learning on how they can be able to utilize blockchain.
Yeah.
Um, we've seen progress since
Mm-hmm.
the Lisk Kenya community has been birthed since 2024.
Yeah.
Uh, we've definitely seen builders change their mindset as we intended them to, from just
Yeah.
building simple projects to building um, coming from an aspect of problem and being very user centric, apart from other time whereby they were building from their skills and also fixing that particular solution in the problems that they think they can create for themselves. So
Mm.
one thing that has been seen that has worked before is definitely cross-border payments has been working very well as a problem, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, with Lisk, a transaction charge could be 0.01.
That's
Compare
low.
that to M-Pesa,
Yeah.
which they take 0.0, they take 1%.
Yeah.
That's like way less. So if you're sending like 10 bob or 30 bob, or sending Kenyan shillings to Ugandan shillings,
Yeah.
that's good. Yes. There's also the bit of stable coins, which these tokens that are pegged onto a fiat currency like USDC, which is pegged to dollars, or USDT, which is also pegged to dollars. There's
Yeah.
also I've seen other stable coins like CKS, which is pegged into Kenyan shillings, and
Yeah.
that also reduces the transaction charges as they go on. One thing that I've seen with startups has always been the problem of ideation is still needs to be solved. At the end of the day, if you're trying to solve a particular problem, let's say you're trying to solve a problem of agriculture, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going into agriculture,
Mm.
there's a reason for you to do research and understand how has agriculture been into Kenya? How is it now? How has it been? then? Is it
Mm.
that farmers right now are given fertilizers, and how much of those fertilizers are affecting the soil? Is really there a problem within that? Is really that the problem is just supply and market? And even how can you justify that there's that problem? So at the end of
Mm.
the day, we want to see startups who are even going to the particular farmers, asking them, even going to the suppliers and the supply chain distributors, asking them what
Yeah.
has happened, how has it worked for you, and not just
Understand the market and the problem that is there.
yeah. It's good to work with the data that's there. It's also good to have data that's backed up and verified, but we
Mm.
also at the end of the day we want to see startups that have gone into the ground market and actually seen the problem. We also want to see the same startups make a solution that is very tailored to the user person, because at the end of the day, if you are working for a user market who's into a countryside way, why would you take them through the pain of them installing a mobile app? They don't have
Mm.
that time. Their phone might not even have that space. Why
Mm.
would you want them to maybe understand dollars if they don't even understand Kenyan shillings at the end of the day? So at
Mm.
the end of the day, you want to see people who've really dissected what's needed, and not
What?
and
Yeah.
also not just solving for their own benefit. Moving forward, we also want to see startups that can scale globally, because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
it will reach a point whereby you want to explain this particular idea to an investor.
Yeah.
And how are you going to prove that this particular idea can scale beyond 2 years, 5 years, 10 years,
Mhm.
20 years?
Yeah.
And how do you think you're going to work through that?
That's well told. It's such a expansive way of how startups and founders and builders, everyone within the startup ecosystem, should have an understanding of having verifiable data, understanding the pain points of the problem that you're solving, and even understanding the market itself, not just building for the speculation, as we've said, and understanding exactly what problem they're solving. Because we're seeing so many applications, even with the payment, cross-border payment systems, that's a pain problem. But now, if people are just copy pasting and building the same thing, and you're not really identifying a unique problem
Mm.
within the cross-border payment system, then it's just you're building out of speculation. You're not actually solving a problem.
I'll
That's quite
give
interesting.
an example
Mm.
within the cross-border payment, so that also people can understand how huge or how well it can impact. So
Yeah,
in Lisk, we have three companies. We have Swiped,
yeah,
we have Nuzo, and we also have Element Pay that they were just in our cohort, the last cohort that has gone off.
yeah.
So with Swiped, they have focused their market on offering merchant payments using
Mm.
stablecoin on Lisk. With Element Pay, they do offer the stablecoins, yes, but
Mm.
they focused on doing so through USSD. So that means
Mm.
that someone who has a banner phone can be
Yeah,
able to transact using stablecoins.
yeah.
On the other side of Nuzo, they focused the cross-border payments on agent and merchant style. So
Mm.
just the same way as you go to an M-Pesa and you withdraw your money,
Yeah.
that's the same way you can also go to a Nuzo agent or a shop and be able to withdraw your particular stable coins on Lisk.
Mm. That's quite interesting to see that there are projects that are actually solving real world problems that are existing. As we wind up, we are already almost 50 minutes into the conversation. With your DevRel hat on, how would you build and maintain community around a tech product, especially in African context where awareness may be low? As we've mentioned, there are people who don't have an understanding of the dollar market, yet whatever is presented to them is like a problem that is like a dollarized solution, or even somebody who's bringing an application to somebody who has a feature phone. So how would you work around that as a DevRel?
So I'll speak in two facets. I'll speak on a DevRel side and I'll speak on a founder side. As a
Yeah,
developer, understand that things are shifting as fast as I don't know what. I always
yeah,
say in blockchain, 2 weeks is always 1 week on this other side. So if you're trying to build something, ensure that something is in line with how the trends and also how the market is also shifting.
mm,
How will you do this? Undergo the X spaces that we have. I've seen Lisk, we've been doing very good X spaces. Like on Monday, we are going to have an X space on how founders have also embraced the artistic way of selling their particular products. We've had a workshop on legal and compliance that we did have SokoChain on. We've had X spaces that actually gives you a rundown of how to get all the opportunities that we did with Decentrix Africa,
yeah,
designing, product management, to partnerships, to selling, to networking, and everything. So as a developer, don't just
yeah,
be focused on sticking to your laptop every other day and just building and producing. Try
yeah,
to go to those X spaces, those communities, those events that are also building you with that capacity of also understanding the founders that you're working for, or even the
mm,
product that you are building. At the end of the day, don't forget that as technology is advancing, it's
mm,
your work to know how to ensure that there is simplicity of understanding on the user's side of that particular technology and advancement. If there's going to be like zero knowledge proofs, in
yeah,
your mind, the developer understand that the user doesn't care about SHA-256 or that privacy that you want to
yeah,
underline in your project. They just want to know that at the end of the day, my data is secure, my money is secure, and I'm able to get what I need to get at this certain time that you've put on your website, that I'm going to get that transaction in 3 seconds or 2 seconds. It's your work
yeah,
to build a feature. It's not the work of a founder or a user to understand all of those jargons. It's also your work as a developer to ensure that the user doesn't undergo pains like of UI and UX. Ensure that they don't know what a wallet is. Ensure that you do account abstraction. Use sign in with Google's. Use things that they are used to. Use
yeah,
words also used to in the particular sites and also particular products. At the end of the day, don't forget that if you create value, if you eat good, as I say, bring it back to the community. Because at the end of the day, we are all learning different aspects, and everybody is watching on you because you are definitely building something that is going to impact 10 to 5 generations coming in. So if you go and find an API that's really good, document it well, come back here, support the builders that are working. If you are if you become so good that at the end of the day you either go to become an Ethereum foundation code developer, ensure
yeah,
that you simplify those terms back to the builders who are in the ecosystem so that we can simplify all of these things while also winning on innovation and technology. We are also winning impact on the founders. At the end of the day, I'd say this:
mm,
there's a lot that you can solve, there's a lot that you can build, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, ensure that you're also building up on your skills. I mean, if you've seen um, we have Dev Connect that's starting next week,
yeah,
and you've seen that we, as Lisk, we had a residency that has happened before that Dev Connect, and we took 7 African startups to the Dev Connect. Go and check the Lisk Join Edge City pitches. See
yeah,
how the founders are pitching. See how they are putting Africa at the forefront
mm,
while also pitching those projects. See how they teach from a perspective of abundance and value,
yeah,
rather from a perspective of I need money, come support me.
yeah,
So at the end of the day, I believe that as founders are building, understand what's working right now because it keeps
yeah,
changing.
yeah,
If it needs an AI for you to simplify the traction that you need, then do it, but don't do it extensively that the user feels like they are even a robot
yeah,
undergoing your. If you need to network with a person or you need to come into the Lisk chain, ensure that you got your data right. Because at the end of the day, I'm not only focused on your startup, I'm focused on 1,000 plus. And if you don't give me value, if you don't give me clarity, how am I going to listen to you?
What a better way to end the episode. And I just feel like this episode is just full of insights that a beginner who is starting their building journey, or even somebody who is on the journey of building, you can be able to grab something and build a viable project with the understanding of the user in mind. Build an application that is easy for users to use. The end consumer of your product is not a robot, as you said. They need to have an understanding, or like a simplified way of interacting with these applications. That's amazing, Bratipah. Thank you so much. Before we wind up, I just want to ask a question. If blockchain and crypto and the whole Web3 ecosystem was a book, which chapter do you think we would be in? It can be chapter in terms of numbers or chapter in terms of a title. Where are we right now in Africa?
I'd say impact and scaling growth. But I also have a surprise at the end of the video. But
Okay.
that's where we've moved from the introduction aspect of people. We are introducing blockchain. We've seen now we've seen startups working, but now
Yeah.
we want to see them scale. We want to see them, becoming a unicorn.
Mm, perfect. Impact and scaling. All right. Thank you so much, Bratipah, for joining us today and for sharing your journey, your insights, and wise advice. It's been a pleasure having you on SokoChain. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of SokoChain. If you found this episode helpful, inspiring, or even thought provoking for our builders and startup founders, please do share it with your networks. Follow us on all our social media platforms and leave a comment with what you'd like us to cover next. So we'll be back with more African stories of local blockchain trailblazers. Until we keep learning, keep building, and remember, community is everything in this space. Thank you so much for being part of SokoChain.